Under a vast, pale sky lies a stretch of green that feels almost too quiet. To the south of these fields stands a massive, 3-story stone building, Blackwood Academy. It is a place of old world study, drawing students from all over the country. Most of them live there, tucked away in dorms, their lives defined by the bells and the books. Every evening, when the sun begins to dip, the fields come alive. Boys rush out, their shouts and laughter filling the air. But amidst the chaos of the game, there is Ethan. Ethan is different. While the others are busy playing, he retreats to the far southern corner of the grounds. There stands a gnarled, ancient oak tree, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. He sits there alone, his lips moving in a low, frantic whisper, as if sharing secrets with the roots themselves. If anyone dares to approach him, his temper flares. During the day, he is a model student, brilliant, sharp, and physically imposing. Standing nearly 6 feet tall with a pale complexion and striking, piercing blue eyes, he has a look that is both beautiful and unsettling. But when the clock strikes 4, Ethan becomes a stranger. The other boys don't even bother asking him to play anymore. They stay away. They have learned that the shade of that oak tree belongs only to Ethan, and whoever it is he talks to. A few miles away, life is changing for Nora. She is a city girl, born and raised in Chicago, and she has only been in this small rural town for 2 days. When she first arrived, she walked the dirt roads in her usual hoodies and jeans, a sight the locals didn't take kindly to. This is a kind of place where traditions are carved in stone. It got so bad that the town elders visited her Uncle Samuel, giving him an ultimatum. If his niece didn't start dressing more modestly, the family would be shunned by the community. After much convincing, Nora now wanders the countryside in the flowing, traditional dresses borrowed from her cousin, Maya. Despite the local friction, Nora is falling in love with the peace. She is tired of the mechanical roar of the city, the smog, the sirens, and the suffocating crowds. Here, the air is sweet. She loves the sound of the morning birds, the dew clinging to the grass, and the simple rhythm of country life. Sometimes she imagines staying here forever, leaving her university life behind. But as she and Maya walk past the edges of the Blackwood property, Nora doesn't realize that the peace she craves is only skin deep. Beneath the beauty of the valley, something old is watching, and in the shadow of a great oak tree, Ethan's whispers are getting louder. As the sun began to set, casting long, golden shadows across the valley, Nora and Maya were walking along the quiet country roads. Their path eventually led them past the iron gates of Blackwood Academy. Through the bars, Nora could see rows of vibrant, meticulously kept flower beds surrounding the stone building. To Nora, flowers were an obsession. She couldn't pass a beautiful garden without needing a photograph. Maya, look at those flowers. Come on, let's go inside and take some pictures, Nora said, reaching for the gate. Maya pulled back, her face pale. Nora, are you crazy? That's the academy. We can't just go in there. Why not? Is there a sign? Is it illegal? Nora asked, already pushing the gate open. It's not exactly forbidden, Maya whispered, but it's a private, traditional school. No women ever go in there unless they have official business. It's just not done. Well, I'm going. Stay here if you're scared, Nora replied, stepping onto the grounds. She began walking across the wide athletic field, her eyes fixed on the blossoms near the main hall. She didn't notice the group of students playing a high-stakes game of soccer nearby. Suddenly, a powerful kick sent the ball soaring through the air. It struck Nora squarely in the temple with a sickening thud. She collapsed instantly. Maya screamed and ran to her side. Nora lay motionless on the grass, a dark trail of blood beginning to leak from her nose. She was completely unconscious. A few of the older students rushed over with bottles of water, splashing her face in a panic, while the younger boys hovered in the distance, frozen with fear. Despite the water, Nora didn't wake. The teachers were inside the faculty office, unaware of the chaos, until a student named Sean ran to fetch them from the shadow of the great oak tree. Ethan had been watching. He stood up slowly and walked toward the crowd. He knelt beside Nora, looking down at her pale face. Without a word, he placed his hand near her nose and closed his piercing blue eyes. He began to mutter something, low, rhythmic, and ancient. In an instant, the bleeding stopped. Nora's eyes fluttered open. The students looked at each other in stunned silence. They had seen injuries like this before, but never a recovery so sudden, so unnatural. As Nora regained consciousness, she gasped for air and asked for water. After taking a sip, her gaze landed on Ethan. She had never seen anyone like him. His skin was flawless, his dark hair thick and wild, and those light blue eyes seemed to hold a world of secrets. In that single hazy moment of recovery, she felt an intense, inexplicable pull toward him. By then, the headmasters had made their way down from the third floor. They looked at the two girls with stern, questioning eyes. Maya quickly explained what had happened, her voice trembling. The headmaster sighed, looking at Nora's dazed expression. "Since you are a guest from the city, we will overlook the intrusion this time. But understand, this is a place of quiet study and strict boundaries. If you wish to visit, you must respect our customs." Maya nodded frantically, thanking them before leading Nora away. On the walk home, Nora turned to her cousin. "Don't tell anyone at the house about the accident, okay? Especially not Uncle Samuel." "I don't have to tell them," Maya said worriedly. "That was a massive hit to the head. I'm afraid the pain is going to kick in once the shock wears off." Nora touched her temple, looking back toward the academy. "That's the strange thing. I don't feel any pain at all, not even a dull ache. I hope it stays that way," Maya muttered. They reached the house just as the evening bells began to toll from the town square, signaling the time for prayer. Maya went to wash up and prepare for her evening rituals, but Nora sat by the window, staring out into the darkening woods. Growing up in the secular, fast-paced world of Chicago, she had never been religious. She knew very little of her family's faith or the ancient traditions of this valley. But as the shadows grew longer, her mind kept drifting back to the boy with the blue eyes and the way the blood had stopped the moment he whispered to the wind. After dinner, Maya and Nora headed up to their room. They shared a large antique wooden bed, a staple in this old country house. For a while, the only light in the room came from the blue glow of their phone screens. Maya was busy tapping away on her phone, smiling at her screen. She had been talking to a guy named Sam for about 2 months. They had met on Facebook, and since then, their nightly chats had become a ritual. For Maya, the day felt incomplete if she didn't hear from him. Nora, on the other hand, was deep into a YouTube rabbit hole. She loved everything from comedy skits to intense horror documentaries. Tonight, she was watching a paranormal investigation video. As a close-up of a demon with haunting blue eyes flashed on the screen, her mind immediately drifted back to Ethan. "Hey, Maya?" Nora whispered, eyes still on the screen. "Yeah," Maya replied, her thumbs never stopping. "I want to go back to the academy tomorrow." Maya's thumbs froze. She looked at Nora, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you serious? Did that soccer ball knock something loose in your brain? Why are you acting like that?" Nora asked, sitting up. Because of what happened today. You're lucky you aren't in a hospital right now. If my dad found out how close you came to serious injury, he'd kill me for letting you go in there. But nothing happened, Nora argued. I'm fine. Besides, I didn't even get any pictures of those flowers today. That's the only reason I want to go back. Whatever. We'll see, Maya sighed, turning back to her phone. She posed for a quick selfie, the flash momentarily blinding them both. Taking selfies at midnight? Nora teased. Sam asked for one, Maya said, hitting send. Nora leaned back against her pillow, trying to focus on her video. But her thoughts kept returning to Ethan's icy blue gaze. Suddenly, she noticed Maya tugging at her shirt, preparing to take a much more revealing photo. Nora lunged forward, snatching the phone out of Maya's hand. She stared at the chat log. Sam was demanding a topless photo. Have you ever even met this guy in person? Nora demanded. No. Maya stammered, looking ashamed. How long have you been talking? 2 months. And how many times have you sent him stuff like this? I haven't. This is the first time he's asked. He asks and you just do it? Nora's voice rose in frustration. What is wrong with you? I love him, Nora. We're gonna get married. What's the harm if he sees me? Listen to me, Nora said, her voice turning cold and serious. You're more religious than I am. You pray every day. How can you justify this? Back in Chicago, I had a friend who trusted her boyfriend just like this. She sent him a video of herself in the shower. When they broke up, he posted it everywhere. Facebook, YouTube, private forums. The shame was so bad she took her own life. Her family had to move away because they couldn't face the neighbors. The room went silent. Maya's face went pale as the weight of Nora's words sank in. Thank you, she whispered. I almost made a terrible mistake. Maya took her phone back. Sam was blowing up her inbox. What's taking so long? Just send it. We're basically married anyway. Maya typed back firmly. If we're getting married, you can wait until the wedding. If you ever ask me for a photo like that again, we're done. The response was instant. Sam sent a string of angry emojis. If you don't send it, I'm ending this right now. Nora glanced at the screen. See? He doesn't want you. Maya. He wants a trophy. Block him. Maya didn't have to. Within seconds, Sam blocked her first. The sudden rejection felt like a physical blow to Maya's chest. She dropped the phone and broke into loud, jagged sobs, throwing her arms around Nora. Don't cry for him, Nora whispered, stroking her cousin's hair. He wasn't worth a single tear. You're better off forgetting he ever existed. You're right, Maya choked out, wiping her eyes. I'll forget him. I swear. Maya pulled her shirt back on and curled up under the covers. Nora lay back down, staring up at the dark ceiling. The house was silent, but in the back of her mind, those blue eyes were still watching her from the shadows of the academy. Sleep was a long time coming. Nora woke up early the next morning, feeling refreshed despite the strange dreams she'd had. Maya was still sound asleep. Usually, Maya was up at the crack of dawn for her morning prayers, but the emotional exhaustion from the night before had kept her pinned to the pillow. Nora finished getting ready and nudged her cousin. Hey, wake up. Are you planning on sleeping all day? Maya groaned, barely opening one eye. What time is it? It's 9 o'clock, Nora replied. Maya bolted upright, checking her phone in a panic. 9. I missed my morning prayer. She scrambled out of bed, rushed through her morning routine, and immediately laid out her prayer mat to make up for the missed time. Watching her, Nora asked curiously, Does it even count if you do it this late? Of course, Maya said, folding her prayer mat. In our faith, if you miss a prayer because of sleep or forgetfulness, you should offer it as soon as you remember or wake up. It's about the heart, Nora. You really know your stuff, Nora remarked. You should too, Maya countered gently. It's part of who we are. Since Maya had classes at the local community college and Nora had nothing to do, she decided to tag along. To avoid drawing more unwanted attention from the conservative locals, Nora decided to fully blend in. She borrowed one of Maya's long coats and a scarf, wrapping around her head so only her eyes were visible. They spent the morning at the college, a quiet campus where Nora's presence went largely unnoticed behind her disguise. After classes, they stopped by a local diner for some fries before heading back. Maya, Nora said as they walked, her voice dropping, let's go back to Blackwood Academy. Maya stopped in her tracks. What is this obsession you have? Is it the flowers? Or is there a ghost in your head? Nora sighed, looking at her cousin. I'll tell you the truth because you're the only one I can trust. I can't stop thinking about that guy, the one with the blue eyes. Maya stared at her, stunned. Ethan? Nora, you're falling for a guy you don't even know? A guy from a place like that? Why not? Nora shrugged. Back in Chicago, guys were constantly chasing me. I want to know him. Nora, those guys in Chicago are different, Maya warned. The students at Blackwood live in a different world. They are disciplined, private, and very traditional. Someone like you, a modern city girl, is the last person they'd expect to be with, unless, of course, you plan on changing everything about yourself. Nora's expression hardened with determination. If that's what it takes, I'll do it. Fine, Maya relented. Let's go. Let's see if we can even find out who he is. They arrived at the academy gates around 3 p.m. during the afternoon break. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, was walking out of the main entrance. Nora waved him over. Hey there, Nora said softly. What's your name? Leo. The boy replied shyly. Leo, do you know a student here? He's tall, very pale, with striking blue eyes. Leo's expression changed instantly. You mean Ethan? Is that his name? Ethan? He's the only one here with eyes like that, Leo said, looking back at the building nervously. Where is he from? Nora asked. I don't know, Leo whispered. Ethan doesn't really talk to anyone unless he has to. And in the evenings, when we're all out playing, he just sits under that old oak tree by himself. He talks to, well, I don't know who he talks to, but if anyone gets close to him during that time, he loses it. He gets terrifying. Nora felt a chill crawl down her spine, but her curiosity only deepened. She looked toward the distant oak tree, standing like a dark sentinel at the edge of the field. Let's go, Maya, Nora said abruptly. I've heard enough for today. As they walked away, Nora couldn't shake the boy's words. He talks to someone, but no one is there. The mystery of Ethan was no longer just a crush. It was becoming a haunting. Nora and Maya walked in silence for a while, the rural road stretching out before them. Finally, Nora broke the silence. So, what do you think, Maya? Do I even have a shot with a guy like that? Honestly, I don't know, Maya admitted, her voice skeptical. Based on what that kid said, he sounds more like a hermit than a boyfriend. He doesn't exactly seem like the dating type. I just wish I could talk to him, just once, Nora murmured, staring at the ground. Don't stress over it too much, Maya said, trying to be encouraging. If it's meant to happen, the universe will find a way. They reached the house, exhausted from the day's travel and the heat. After a quick dinner, They fell into bed, sleep claiming them almost instantly. It was now midnight. The world outside was deathly still, the silence broken only by the distant, mournful howl of a coyote. Nora's uncle, Samuel, was making his way back home from the city. Because it was so late, the local buses had stopped running, forcing him to walk the long stretch of road from the town market. In his hand, he carried a heavy bag of pesticides and fertilizer for the family farm. Above him, a crescent moon hung in the sky, casting a pale, sickly glow over the landscape. As Samuel approached the boundaries of Blackwood Academy, a cold shiver raced down his spine. He was a brave man. He had spent many nights alone fishing the dark rivers, but he had never felt a dread quite like this. His heart began to hammer against his ribs. He started whispering prayers under his breath, quickening his pace. Suddenly, his eyes were drawn to the massive oak tree at the edge of the academy grounds. In the dim moonlight, he saw them. 3 figures draped in long, flowing white robes, perched high up in the gnarled branches. Who would be up in a tree at this hour? Samuel wondered, his confusion momentarily overriding his fear. The tree sat about 10 feet outside the academy stone wall, so he was able to walk right up to the base. "Hey, who's up there?" Samuel called out, his voice trembling. "What are you doing in that tree so late?" At the sound of his voice, one of the figures slowly turned its head. Samuel's breath hitched. The figure had a face as pale as a corpse, drained of all blood, and 2 massive, glowing blue eyes that seemed to pierce right through his soul. Before he could even gasp, the creature vanished from a branch and reappeared instantly on the ground in front of him. Samuel managed one blood-curdling scream. "Help! Someone help me!" But the words were cut short. The entity lunged, its cold, claw-like hands clamping shut around Samuel's throat, choking the life out of him. Inside the academy, a teacher was still awake, working late in his 3rd-floor office. His window faced the old oak tree, and the scream had sliced through the midnight silence. He grabbed a heavy-duty flashlight and rushed to the window. As the beam of light hit the tree, he saw something that defied logic. 3 streaks of fire, like small comets, shooting upward into the black sky and vanishing. He swung the light down toward the ground outside the perimeter wall. There, sprawled in the dirt, was the motionless body of a man. The teacher shouted for the other staff and rushed outside. They found Samuel unconscious, his face twisted in terror, and quickly carried his limp body inside the academy gates. As the hours ticked by and Samuel failed to return, the tension in the house reached a breaking point. His phone was switched off, cutting off the only link they had to him. Nora and Maya took turns dialing his number over and over, only to be met with the same cold, automated voicemail. "The subscriber you're trying to reach is currently unavailable." Sleep was impossible. Panic hung heavy in the air. Maya had no brothers, and with her father missing, there was no man in the house to take charge. They felt paralyzed, terrified of what might have happened, but unable to go out and search the dark, treacherous woods in the middle of the night. Inside Blackwood Academy, Samuel finally drifted back to consciousness around 2 a.m. He blinked, looking around the unfamiliar stone room with glazed eyes. "Water?" he croaked, his voice barely a whisper. The teacher, who had been keeping watch, quickly brought a bottle to his lips. After taking a few frantic sips, Samuel's eyes rolled back, and he slipped into a deep, heavy unconsciousness again. Seeing that he was at least stable, the teachers felt a small sense of relief and eventually retreated to their own rooms to catch a few hours of rest. The first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, accompanied by the distant chime of the town's morning bells. Maya and Nora sat huddled on one side of the bed, while Maya's mother sat frozen on the other. In the next room, Maya's 10-year-old sister Lily was still fast asleep, far too young to understand the nightmare the rest of the family was living through. Maya eventually got up to perform her morning prayers. To her surprise, Nora followed. Nora watched her cousin closely, mimicking her movements and standing beside her in a silent show of solidarity. When the prayer ended, Maya broke down, her tears falling onto her prayer mat as she begged for her father's safe return. In the middle of her sob, Maya's phone buzzed. It was an unrecognized number. Maya stared at the screen, hesitant. "Why aren't you answering?" Nora asked. "I don't know the number," Maya whispered. "I'm scared of what they'll say." "Pick it up, Maya," Nora urged. "It could be news about your dad. It could be someone who found him." Maya took a deep breath and pressed accept. "Hello." A stern, formal voice spoke from the other end. "Is this Samuel's family? This is Blackwood Academy. Your father is here. Please come and collect him immediately." Before Maya could ask a single question, the line went dead. Nora grabbed her arm. "What? What did they say?" "He's at the academy," Maya said, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and confusion. "The teacher said he's there." "At the academy? But why? How did he end up there?" "I don't know." He hung up before I could ask anything. Maya quickly explained the situation to her mother, whose face washed over with immense relief. Without wasting a second, the three of them threw on their coats and headed out the door, racing toward the stone walls of Blackwood Academy. As they stepped through the heavy iron gates of Blackwood Academy, Nora felt her heart hammer against her ribs. A strange cold sensation washed over her, a feeling she had never experienced in the bustling streets of Chicago. It was as if the very air inside the stone walls was charged with something ancient. While Maya and her mother rushed toward the main building to find Samuel, Nora slowed her pace. Her eyes darted around the courtyard, searching for the one face she couldn't forget. Students in dark uniforms were moving between classes, but the boy with the piercing blue eyes was nowhere to be seen. Maya looked back and saw Nora lagging behind. "Nora, what are you doing? Hurry up," she called out before disappearing into the infirmary wing. Nora started to jog to catch up, but as she reached the corner of the stone veranda, someone stepped out of the classroom. She slammed right into him. Stumbling back, Nora opened her mouth to apologize, but the words died in her throat. It was him, Ethan, up close. He was even more striking, his presence cold and commanding. "You're in an academy," Ethan said, his voice low and sharp with irritation. "Walk properly. Why are you running?" I'm sorry," Nora stammered, her heart racing for a different reason now. "I didn't see you. It won't happen again." "Fine, just go," he replied, turning to leave. "Wait," Nora called out. "If you don't mind, could I at least know your name?" Ethan stopped and looked back at her, his gaze icy. "What would you do with my name?" Nora took a deep breath. She wasn't one for games. "I'll be direct because I don't like beating around the bush. Ever since the first day I saw you, I haven't been able to get you out of my head. Call it crazy, but I think I've fallen for you." Ethan's eyes seemed to flash like lightning. A dark, unreadable expression crossed his face. "Do you even know what you're saying? Do you have any idea who or what I am?" "It doesn't matter," Nora countered. "Love doesn't care about backgrounds or traditions or where someone comes from. It's a feeling. You can't choose when or who it hits." Nora began to walk away, but after a few steps, she looked over her shoulder. "If you feel even a spark of what I do, meet me this afternoon at the South Field, by the oak tree. I'll be waiting." Without waiting for an answer, she hurried inside to find her family. Inside the infirmary, Maya was sitting by her father's bed, her hand on his forehead. "Dad, what happened?" "You terrified us." Samuel sat up slowly and pulled his daughter into a hug. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Don't cry. Your old man is tougher than he looks." Maya's mother wiped her eyes and asked, "But what happened last night, Samuel? Why were you out cold?" Samuel opened his mouth to tell them about the pale figures in the tree and the claw-like hands at his throat, but he stopped. He didn't want to infect them with the same terror that was currently rotting in his stomach. I just got dizzy." He lied. "Must have been the heat and the long walk. I tripped and hit my head." "And your phone?" "I must have dropped it where I fell." As they spoke, the headmaster of the academy entered the room. "One of my staff heard a scream last night," the old man said gravely. When he looked out, he saw 3 streaks of fire shooting into the heavens. "He found your husband unconscious on the road. This valley, it has old shadows, Samuel. Things that don't like to be disturbed. I've given you a protective charm. Keep it with you." The family thanked him and prepared to leave. As they walked out, they met Nora in the hallway. Maya noticed a flushed look on Nora's face, but chose not to ask. Not yet. On the way out, they stopped at the spot by the road where Samuel had collapsed. Sure enough, his phone was lying in the dirt, untouched. Lucky for them, no one had passed by that way yet. They began to walk home. Samuel safe but silent, and Nora already counting the minutes until the sun began to set over the south field. After they returned home, Maya turned to her father with a serious expression. "Dad, from now on, you are not staying out late. You need to be home before dark." Samuel looked at his daughter and forced a small smile. "And why is that, sweetheart?" "Because did you not hear what the headmaster said? He said the shadows got a hold of you. He thinks it was something supernatural, a spirit." Nora, who had been listening from the doorway, let out a short laugh. "Oh, come on, Maya. You're a college student. You seriously believe in those old superstitions?" "What superstitions, Nora?" Maya snapped back. "This whole thing about spirits and demons. Do you actually believe that stuff exists?" "Nora, listen to me," Maya said, her voice dropping an octave. "If you don't believe in the unseen, you're missing a core part of our faith. You're practically losing your connection to the truth. What does a ghost story have to do with faith?" Nora asked, crossing her arms. "Everything. You don't practice, so how would you know? Have you ever opened holy books? God says clearly that he created both mankind and the spirits to serve a purpose. To deny one is to deny the word itself. If you throw away that belief, you're standing on very shaky ground, Nora." Nora didn't have an answer for that. The intensity in Maya's eyes was enough to make her turn away in silence. She walked out of the room without another word. Samuel sighed, looking at his daughter. Was it really necessary to be that hard on her? "You've upset her." "I can fix her mood later, Dad," Maya said firmly. "But first, promise me no more late nights." "Fine, fine," Samuel chuckled, holding up his hands in surrender. "I'll be home for dinner every night. Are you happy now?" Maya smiled and hugged him tight. "I love you, Dad. I just want you safe." Back at Blackwood Academy, Ethan was sitting in his advanced philosophy class, but for the first time in his life, he couldn't focus. The teacher's voice sounded like a distant hum. All he could see was Nora, her dark, defiant eyes, the curve of her lips, and the sheer boldness of her confession. It shouldn't be happening. He shook his head, trying to clear the image. "Be careful, Ethan," he warned himself. "Do not go down that path." You and that girl belong to two different worlds. There's a distance between your lives that can never be crossed. The professor noticed Ethan's vacant stare and paused. Ethan, you look troubled today. Is everything all right? Ethan snapped back to reality, his face returning to its usual mask of cold indifference. I'm fine, sir. Just a long night. Please continue. Upstairs in her room, Nora stood by the window, gripping the wooden frame. Maya's words were ringing in her ears like a bell. Maya was right. Nora called herself a believer. But what had she actually done to prove it? She didn't pray. She didn't dress modestly by choice. She didn't know the first thing about the ancient texts. She realized that her life in the city had been a blur of modern distractions, leaving her empty inside. She made a silent vow right then. She would change. She would learn to pray. She would respect the traditions. And she would find her way back to her roots. A soft hand touched her shoulder. It was Maya. Hey, are you mad at me for what I said? Nora turned around, her eyes soft. No, not at all. In fact, you were right. Yeah, and I wanted to help me, Maya. I want to learn how to pray. I want to understand the book. Will you teach me? Maya's face lit up with a brilliant smile. She pulled Nora into a tight hug. Of course I will. I'd love nothing more. After classes ended, Ethan retreated to his room. Nora's final words were playing on a loop in his mind, like a haunting melody. If you feel even a spark of what I do, meet me this afternoon at the South Field. Ethan was torn. One part of him felt a magnetic pull toward her, a curiosity he couldn't suppress. The other part, the part that knew the secrets of his bloodline, screamed at him to stay away. The internal war raged on until his roommate, Caleb, burst in. Ethan? Still moping in here? Are you coming to the dining hall? Or what? Ethan looked up, his face weary. Go ahead, Caleb. I'm not hungry. Not hungry? You look like you've seen a ghost, and that's saying something for this place. Come on, man, you need to eat. Caleb didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed Ethan's arm and practically dragged him out. After a forced meal, Ethan returned to his room and collapsed onto his bed. His mind was still filled with images of Nora, her dark hair and her defiant gaze. Before he could make sense of his feelings, exhaustion took over, and he drifted into a heavy, dreamless sleep. At the farmhouse, Nora and Maya finished their afternoon chores and went to freshen up. Maya spent the hour teaching Nora the basics of the cleansing rituals and the first verses of the ancient prayers. Nora sat cross-legged on the floor, focusing intently on a beginner's guide to the scripture, while Maya corrected her pronunciation. Maya's mother walked by and paused, a warm smile spreading across her face. Well, look at this. Our city girl is finally growing up. Nora smiled back. I guess they say good company brings out the best in you. Annie, being around Maya is finally starting to rub off on me. As the call for the afternoon prayer echoed from the valley's small chapel, the girls prepared their prayer mats. Just follow my movements, Maya whispered. Stay focused, and don't let your mind wander. Nora nodded, standing tall beside her cousin. They began the silent ritual, and Nora felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. However, just as they were nearing the end, a street vendor outside began shouting his wares in a bizarre, high-pitched voice. It was so ridiculous that it sliced right through the solemnity of the moment. Maya bit her lip, suppressing a giggle, but Nora couldn't help it. She burst into a loud, genuine fit of laughter. After they finished, Maya turned to her with a mock-stern look. Well, that's it. Your prayer is void. Nora blinked in confusion. What? Why? I followed everything you did. You did, until you laughed. Maya explained. In our tradition, if you laugh out loud during the ritual, it breaks your focus and the sanctity of the act. It means you have to start all over. Oh, man, Nora groaned, though she was still smiling. I didn't know. I guess I've got a lot to learn. A lot, Maya laughed. But don't worry, I've taken on the job of turning the city rebel into a saint. Exhausted from the stress of the previous night, the two girls decided to take a nap before the sun began to set. Ethan woke up with a start. Caleb was shaking his shoulder. Ethan, wake up, man. The afternoon bells just rang. You're going to miss the assembly. Ethan rubbed his eyes, disoriented. What? How long was I out? Long enough. Come on, let's go. Ethan joined the other students for the late afternoon service. Afterward, as the boys poured out on the grass to start their daily soccer match, Ethan stood at the edge of the porch. Usually, this was the time he retreated to the shadow of the ancient oak tree to speak with the others, the invisible forces that had haunted him since childhood. But today, the oak tree felt distant. Instead, his eyes turned toward the south field. An invisible thread seemed to be tugging at his soul, pulling him away from the academy and toward the boundary fence. Driven by a force he could no longer fight, Ethan began to walk. He wasn't heading for the shadows today. He was heading for her. When Ethan walked into the southern field, he saw Nora and Maya standing together, their voices carrying softly in the late afternoon air. Nora noticed him first, a small, knowing smile spreading across her lips. She stepped forward, leaving Maya behind. I knew you'd come, she said softly. Ethan looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. He felt out of place, caught between the rules of his world and the pull of hers. He didn't know what to say. Nora tilted her head. No hello? You're not very talkative, are you? What is there to say? He replied, his voice low. For starters, tell me your name. Your real name. It's Ethan, he said. I'm a senior at the academy. Senior? So you're almost finished with your degree? Something like that. He nodded. I'm in the advanced honors program. Impressive. I'm a freshman myself, back in the city. That's good, Ethan replied shortly. Nora stepped a little closer, her eyes searching his. Tell me the truth, Ethan. Do you feel it too? Do you like me? I don't know, he whispered. I think you do. If you didn't, you wouldn't have risked coming out here to see me. Maybe, Ethan said, looking back toward the stone walls of the school. But I have to go. We aren't allowed off the grounds without permission. I slipped out through a side gate, and if I'm caught, there will be trouble. Without waiting for her to respond, he turned and began to walk away. Nora stood frozen, watching him go. Ethan was strange. His pale skin, those glowing blue eyes, his powerful build. Everything about him was magnetic, but as he walked, she noticed something chilling. His body didn't sway. His shoulders didn't move with the rhythm of a normal stride. It looked as if he were gliding, hovering just an inch above the grass. Are you going to stare at him all day, or are we going home? Maya's voice broke the trance. Nora didn't answer. She was still fixated on the retreating figure of the boy who seemed more like a ghost than a person. Nora. Maya nudged her. Earth to Nora. You've really got it bad for him, don't you? Nora finally blinked, shaking her head. Yeah, I do. I've never seen anyone like him. If I end up with him, Maya, I think it would be the luckiest thing to ever happen to me. All right, Romeo, let's get moving. It's almost sunset. Later that night, Nora was sitting at her desk, trying to study. Maya was in the kitchen, helping her mother with the evening meal. The room felt stuffy, so Nora had cracked a window open. It was 9 p.m. A pale crescent moon hung outside. As she turned a page in her book, something caught her eye. About 60 feet away, near the old lychee tree, she saw a flash of white. She squinted, trying to make out the shape. It looked like a figure, draped in white, perched perfectly still. She reached for the heavy flashlight on the edge of her desk and clicked it on, aiming the beam at the tree. The light hit the branches. Empty. The white shape had vanished instantly, as if it had never been there. A cold knot of fear formed in her stomach. What was that? She thought about calling Maya, but she hesitated. Maya was already so high-strung. Telling her about a white lady in the garden would only make her too terrified to leave the house. Nora shook it off, telling herself it was just the moonlight playing tricks on the leaves. By 11 p.m., the girls were tucked into bed. Maya was scrolling through her phone, occasionally trying to start conversation, but Nora was overwhelmed by a sudden, heavy exhaustion. "Stop talking for 5 minutes, Maya," Nora muttered. "Pulling the covers up, put the phone away and go to sleep." "Wow," Maya teased. "Usually you're the one up until 2 a.m. What happened to the city girl who never sleeps?" "I don't know. I'm just drained. Just be quiet." Maya sighed, clicked off her phone, and settled into her pillow. Soon, the house fell into a deep, uneasy silence. Around 3 a.m., a sharp noise jolted Nora awake. It sounded like someone was fumbling with the window frame, right next to her bed. She sat up, her heart hammering. A burglar? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the room, the sound of glass shattering into 1,000 pieces. Maya sat up, screaming. What was that? What happened? Nora was already sliding out of bed. "I don't know. It sounded like something broke." Maya flicked on the light. They scanned the room, but everything looked normal. The mirrors were intact. The glasses on the nightstand were fine. Then, Nora looked at the window. One of the glass panes was missing. "Maya, look." They walked over to the window. One half of the double pane glass was completely gone. Grabbing the flashlight, they stepped outside onto the porch. There, lying on the ground beneath the window, were the shards of glass. Maybe it was an earthquake? Nora suggested, trying to find a logical explanation. A tremor could have rattled it out of frame. "No way," Maya whispered, her voice trembling. "An earthquake strong enough to do that would have woken up the whole house. We would have felt the bed shake. Something else broke that window." As they stood there in the chilly night air, a low sound drifted toward them from the thick bushes at the south end of the yard. It was a groan, a pained, guttural whimpering. "Someone's out there," Maya whispered, clutching Nora's arm. "Maybe it was a prowler. Maybe the glass fell on him when he tried to break in, and he's hurt. We have to see." Nora felt a wave of dread. "I don't know, Maya. I have a bad feeling about this."